This tutorial is for 5th grade, Module 4, Lesson 18. In this lesson, we're going to look at the connection between multiplying decimals and multiplying fractions. The first problem I have here is 2 3/10 times 9/10. I've written these factors off to the side in the vertical format in unit form, meaning I've written the decimal place value next to each factor. 2 3/10 can be considered the same thing as 23/10. And then I have 9/10 below it. I'm going to start by just doing regular multiplication. So 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 2 plus 2 would be 18 plus 2, which is 20. Since I'm multiplying tenths by tenths, my new unit will be hundredths. So I have 207 hundredths. Now I need to think of what that would look like as a decimal. Well, 207 needs to land in my hundredth spot. So my final answer would be 2.07. This is 207 hundredths because the 7 is in the hundredths place. Now let's see how that relates to multiplying fractions. I'm going to turn each of these decimals into a fraction. So 2 3/10 would be the same thing as 23/10, just like we showed in the vertical format for multiplication, and I'll be multiplying that by 9/10. To do this multiplication, I would take 23 times 9 over 10 times 10. Well, we know from the previous multiplication that 23 times 9 is 207. 10 times 10 is 100. If I use a number bond to decompose this, I can write down that 200 hundredths is the same thing as 2 wholes, and then I have 7 hundredths left over, and that would be the fraction part of my mixed numeral. So there's 2 7 hundredths. If I wanted to express this as a decimal, I would have 2 wholes and 7 hundredths. And you can see that the two answers match. Let's look at another example. This time I'm taking 6 6/10 times 2 8/10. I'm going to rewrite those numbers on my vertical format, showing the unit form. So 6 6/10 is the same as 66 tenths, and 2 8/10 is the same as 28 tenths. I'm going to go ahead and just do the regular multiplication. So 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 6 is 48 plus 4 is 52. Now when I multiply by the 2, it's actually 20, so I'm going to put down my 0. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 13. And I can add those. So I have 8, 4, 8, and 1. Now I have to remember that each of these was tenths, so now I have to take my tenths times my tenths. That means my answer will be hundredths. And again, the final answer needs to fall in the hundredth spot as a decimal. So that would be 18 48 hundredths as my final answer. To show it in fraction form, 6 6/10 is the same as 66 tenths. I'll multiply that by 28 tenths. That means I'm going to take 66 times 28 over 10 times 10. Well, we did 66 times 28 in our vertical format, and that was 1,848. 10 times 10 is 100. Again, I can use a number bond to show how many wholes I have. Well, if it takes 100 to make a whole, I can use 18 hundredths to make my whole number of 18. That leaves 48 hundredths as the fraction, and as a decimal, that would be 18 and 48 hundredths. So again, the two answers match. We're going to do the same thing in this problem, but you can see I don't have matching decimal place values for this problem. So let's work through this one. I'm going to start with 3 3/10, which is the same thing as 33 tenths. And my other factor is 14 hundredths. And I'll write that as 14 hundredths. I'll do my multiplication as usual. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3 plus 1 is 13. This 1 is actually 10, so I'm going to put down my 0. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 3 is 3. I'll add those partial products. I have 2, 6, and 4. But now I have to look at my place value units here. I'm taking tenths times hundredths. Well, tenths times hundredths would give me thousandths. That means my answer needs to land in the thousandths place, which is the third place to the right of the decimal point. So my final answer will be 462 thousandths. And in fraction form, we would have 33 tenths times 14 hundredths, which means we'll take 33 times 14 over 10 times 100. Well, 33 times 14 is what we did on our vertical multiplication problem, so that's 462, and 10 times 100 is 1,000. 462 thousandths is the fraction form of the answer, and again, as a decimal, it would be 0.462. In the last section, we are to solve the problem using the standard algorithm, and then we're going to use the reminder below each problem to help us place the decimal point. The first problem is 3 2/10 times 6/10, and we have the vertical format below. I'm just going to use regular multiplication here. So 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. And I don't need to multiply this 0. The reminder is that we're multiplying tenths times tenths. So our answer needs to show how many hundredths we have. Again, the hundredths place is the second place to the right of the decimal point. That means my decimal point needs to go between the 1 and the 9. I have 1 and 92 hundredths, the 2 landing in the hundredths place. So 3 2/10 times 6/10 is 1 and 92 hundredths. And let's look at one more problem. Here I have 8 and 31 hundredths times 2 and 4/10. So I'll start with the multiplication. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 1 is 33. Put down my 0. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 8 is 16. I'll add both of those. I have 4, 4, 9, 9, and 1. Now this time I'm multiplying hundredths times tenths. So the decimal needs to land in the thousandths place, which is the third place to the right of the decimal point. So I'm going to put my decimal point right between the two nines. My final answer is 19 and 944 thousandths.